Dave Smith, as potent as he might be on a podcast, or even on Joe Rogan's for that matter, people don't support this guy. I support our troops. I support America. I support our allies.
I think Joe's had him on 20, 30 times.
Irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant. When you go and be professionals, that's not how I handle debates. I don't handle debates that way. That's not my MO. So if you're close to me and you're handling it that way, that is not my style. Well, Trump doesn't do this. Well, contrary to popular belief, Trump looks at every poll. Trump listens to every comment. Trump listens to every criticism.
You're about to watch one of the most uncomfortable moments in PBD podcast history. Patrick Bet-David does not just criticize Adam Sosnick here, he dismantles him, publicly, on his own show in front of the whole crew. And the crazy part? Adam had absolutely no idea this was coming. Patrick literally rescheduled the entire podcast the night before just to have this conversation. That tells you everything about how serious this was.
You don't have issues there. That's not the conversation I'm having.
The conversation that I was just basically establishing is that Dave Smith, as potent as he might be on a podcast, or even on Joe Rogan's for that matter, people don't support this guy. I support our troops. I support America. I support our allies.
I think Joe's had him on 20, 30 times.
Irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant. So ask whether you agree with the guy or not. You know, Joe likes Dave, right? So the question you got to ask yourself is, from my perspective, there is issues, there is approach, there is what's next for you. When I look at everybody in a marketplace, including myself, everybody in a marketplace, including myself, I leave and I say, okay, how am I recreating myself for this next phase? What areas do I have where it's a leak for me? What habits do I have that I need to pay attention to? When we started building an insurance company, yesterday I had Lee Strobel on, we had a great conversation together. One of the guys I would study a lot was Billy Graham. And Billy Graham and his friends, in 1948, they came out with something called the Modesto Manifesto. And at that time, there was a lot of pastors that were getting caught up with young girls. And they came up with this thing saying, hey, what are our threats? And they came out with the threats that they had. It was 4 things. One of the ones was pastors hooking up with members. Number 2 was churches taking advantage of the members with money. Number 3 was the ego of a pastor when you get on stage and you feel like, you know, you are God. Like some pastors actually become godlike because of how much the church fears them, and they liked anyways. They go through this. I said, okay, how do we want to build this company?
Patrick is not arguing about Dave Smith anymore. He is already talking about Adam's future and his blind spots. And bringing up Billy Graham is not random. It is Patrick saying even the greats had to sit down and name exactly what could destroy them. He is asking Adam to do the same thing right now.
It's very hard. So you got to think about ways to improve. I'm asking you. The argument is one end, because I don't know if you focused on making I've seen you make better arguments with Bassem Youssef than you did with Dave Smith. I didn't see you making arguments on Dave Smith. And the reason why I'm doing this with you openly, and I'm talking to you openly with you, is there's an element of also representing where you're coming from, where the expectation is, hey, when you go and be professionals, that's not how I handle debates. I don't handle debates that way. That's not my MO. So if you're close to me and you're handling it that way, that is not my style. I don't do stuff like that. And Dave and I don't even agree on some of these issues. But if I'm having a conversation, it's about what is this next phase. And by the way, the reason why I'm having this direct feedback with you publicly is for the following reason. This is how I roll, Adam. I will give you private feedback and have your back 100%. I've always been like that. This is why my guys like working with me, and they know how tough it is at times because I'm always challenging them. But if my private feedback that I'm giving doesn't land, and it feels like you have immunity to go run around and say whatever you want and keep saying, I don't give a shit what people say.
Right here. This is the moment. Patrick just told the world he already tried to handle this privately. Weeks ago at dinner, one-on-one, and it did not land. So now it is happening in front of everyone. That is not punishment. That is Patrick refusing to let someone he believes in stay comfortable in their blind spot.
I do. There's an approach to take about this game. I don't care that we have differences in debates. We push each other here and we have arguments and, you know, comment, I side with Vinny today. You know what? Today, actually, I side with Adam. You know, there was a couple moments we had where you had a couple clips of like they sided with you. I think Adam's the point today. And I'm like, oh, okay, Adam had a point. And then, hey, Tom, no, I'm siding with Tom today. Pat, you were off today. No problem. but it's recreating for the next phase of what is that next phase for you. And that's a very important thing for you to be thinking about. I've had that conversation with him, recreating himself. I've had the conversation with him, recreating himself. I have the conversation openly with me on what I need to recreate. But for me, when I saw that, I'm like, you know, you brought up another guy from the past that beat Dave. Great. You know, you brought up, no, there needs to be the Adam that I've seen debate that is prepared. He actually would have made some real good points there. And you, by the way, you've been a moderator for Zero Hedge with Dave Smith and what do you call it, Laura Loomer, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what you did?
Yeah,
Didn't you moderate? Yeah.
Yes.
And I was a pretty good job you did as a moderator. So I don't know. I'm saying this publicly to say this next phase requires all of us to recreate ourselves, and that includes you in a big way. And I've said this privately 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago at that dinner place we went to, and I was very direct with you. But you're cornering me to have to say this publicly to you right now. And you have to make a decision on what you want to do with this next phase. You got to recreate yourself.
Sure.
It's a very important thing. I'm being very respectful to you. And you had no idea that I'm going to go here this morning. You had no clue I'm going. And by the way, I intentionally changed today's business podcast to do this because obviously Monday I couldn't be here. We had certain things that was going on. This weekend I had, what do you call it?
SLS.
SLS. Sean Hannity did it last Friday. So I changed everything. And Rob and I, we had to talk about it yesterday and calendar to do it this way. But for me, sometimes, you know, when people say, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. And sometimes this is like the Trump effect. Well, Trump doesn't care. Well, Trump doesn't give a shit. Well, Trump doesn't do this. Well, contrary to popular belief, Trump looks at every poll. Trump listens to every comment. Trump listens to every criticism. So what you think that Trump does, I'm not telling you go read the comments the next day and go through all chat. I don't recommend that at all. But I do believe a little bit of criticism to see, well, maybe there's a little bit of credibility there. There's a little bit of value there for me to receive. How can I receive this and recreate myself? Because if you're not too careful, Adam, and I'll open it up to you guys if you want to say anything. I'll give you the final thoughts, and then I want to get on the next story, but I wanted to open up with us, get right into it, is the following. There is no April Fool's jokes today. I don't have one. Okay, so if you guys are expecting an April Fool's joke, I don't have one. This is not an April Fool's joke. I know what day today is. This is not, you know, I've had certain friends of mine that are very good at, I used to be very good at the April Fool's stuff. I don't have one today. Maybe I'll have one for you next year when I'm in a different mood. But this is the part I want you to be thinking about. Is the market is going to criticize you. There's a very big difference between the bots. I read a comment yesterday, made the most disrespectful comment to me. And the first thing I did, I went to the account. It got started in February of 2026.
Oh, weird.
It has 2 followers, follows 6,000 accounts. That's a bot of somebody that created to say it. Forget about the bots. There are some people that are giving real feedback that we have to pay close attention to because, you know, we can disagree. You know, even with the Dave Smith part, Dave Smith's issues, we can sit down and have a debate over the number, and I can still do it respectfully. You know, even when I went to Jubilee, they disrespected me. I didn't disrespect the kids when I spoke to them. Our position has to be a different position, and even when Trump calls out, he still is very paying attention to the likability score that he has. Love him or hate him, people like him. I'll pause. Vinny, any thoughts
can
you
I
had?
just respond real
Of
quick, or
course,
do you want me to go to the
absolutely.
line?
Patrick just compared Adams' I don't care attitude to Trump, and the point he makes is actually shocking. Trump, the man who built his entire brand around not caring, reads every single poll and tracks every criticism closely. Patrick is telling Adam directly that shield of confidence is quietly becoming your ceiling. The greats never stop listening.
No, go
So
for it.
I'll just break this down real quick. We didn't have this discussion prior. You just kind of preemptively brought this up, and I'm totally okay with it. If I wanted to have a ideological debate with Dave, I would probably rephrase it that the world is a dangerous place, and he wants to pretend that he's an ostrich and not engage with anybody. So, you know, to use an analogy, if this guy was a dating coach, he would say, just sit at home all day and wait for women to knock on your door, and that's when you can respond to women. The world doesn't work that way. If you're a sales coach or if you're a sales manager, that's like saying, just stay by the phones.
What do you think's the outcome of a debate?
But the outcome of a debate.
Forget Dave Smith. This isn't a Dave Smith conversation. That could have been John Doe. I'm not talking.
But the point is that I'm trying
what
to
is
make
the
was
purpose of a
ideologically,
debate?
we're not aligned.
What is the purpose of a debate?
To find the truth.
The purpose, it's a clash of ideas.
Sure.
So somebody can watch and say, wow, Good point. Never thought about it that way. Let me go back and look at it, right? That is the purpose of a debate. The purpose of a debate is for me to look at something when, like the moment where Hillary Clinton and Trump are going at it, and Hillary says, him and all he didn't pay any taxes, and he didn't do this, and he didn't do that. And then the moderator asks Trump a question and says, is it true that you paid this? He says, yes. I will use every single tax code that you have, just like all her donors do. And by the way, you've been there for 36 years. How come you've never changed it? So me as the voter sits there and says, that's a very good point. Huh. You've been there for 30. That's the debate. It gets people thinking.
Sure.
So if I'm going into a debate and I didn't make anybody think, what was the purpose of debate?
Sure. Well, now, fair point. Well, the point that I was trying to make is that ideologically we're not aligned here. I'm supporting Trump. Was I supporting Trump for 5-10 years ago?
No, you were not.
So I'm all behind Trump. Everybody
Right.
wants to criticize Trump right now. The thing that I'm basically establishing is the fact that this guy has a luxury of living in America and wants to criticize the heck out of Trump when I'm defending Trump and our troops. The point that I was saying is I'm defending Trump. Dave's the type of person that'll root for the bad guy in the bad movie. So that's who Dave is. Aside from that, other than that, I understand what you're talking about. The reason that I brought up the Coleman Hughes, and I encourage people to go watch it, this was the sort of like the swan song event. Imagine you hype up this event. Here's what's going on. The SLS is coming this weekend. Yeah. Here's what's going on. And this debate takes place, and it was a 12-0 drubbing. So that's my point. Should I have conveyed it a little bit better? Sure. Should I have not brought up someone else's debate in my debate? Maybe I'll learn that for the next time. That's fine. But the reality is this. He got whooped, and I called him out on it. That's all it was.
And that right there is what real accountability looks like up close. Patrick rescheduled his entire show, sat Adam down in front of the whole audience, and walked him through everything he needed to hear. Not because he wanted to embarrass him, because he believed Adam was capable of more than what he was currently showing. Most people in Patrick's position would have quietly moved on and said nothing. Patrick went the harder route because that is the route that actually produces growth. What did you think? Did Adam take the feedback well enough, or does he still have more work to do? Tell me in the comments. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss moments like this. See you in the next one.